Good morning, citizens of Douglas County. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners work session meeting for February 17th, 2026. We will now call this, ma'am?
2025.
2025. Oh, sorry. Now I should see you get me with the reading.
Sorry.
2025. We'll now call this work session meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll for the record.
Yes, sir. Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones, Chairman.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner District 1, Henry Mitchell.
Present.
Commissioner District 2, Whitney Kenner-Jones.
Present.
Commissioner District 3, Martin Raxton.
Present.
Vice Chair District 4, Mark Alcaraz.
Present. Members of the board, has everyone had a moment to look over the agenda? Are there any changes or modifications to the agenda? Being none, the agenda stands as approved. Madam Clerk, did we have anyone sign up for public comment?
Yes, sir, we did. Before I call you up, I'll ask you to, when you reach the podium, please speak directly into the mic and state your name and address and your subject matter, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your 3 minutes are up, we'll ask you to wrap up your comments. Our first citizen, Sharon Bachtel.
Sharon Bachtel, 6331 South Skyline Drive, and my topic is fees. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to talk about fees. At the last meeting in January, you capped the salary of the probate judge to $150,000 per salary and fees. This was put on the agenda at the last minute without any discussion at the work session. I want to be clear, I am not against capping the fees of elected officials. My question is, why wasn't there any discussion of capping the tax commissioner's fees when he presented his resolutions in December? We, the citizens, pointed out the $2 fee for streetlights, which no other tax commissioner has collected. There was no mention of capping salary and fees at that meeting, and no one asked the tax commissioner about his income. Don't you think it was strange that not one word was said about these fees in 2021, and at least one commissioner was not informed about this change in policy? According to open records, the tax commissioner receives a salary of $104,873 and a yearly car allowance of $9,600, which is $800 a month. In 2024, he received $41,752 for the collection of Douglasville taxes, $7,934 for collection of Villa Rica taxes, and $32,536 for streetlight fees. This adds up to $196,695, which is almost $200,000. According to ACCG, the commission does not have to give fees to the tax commissioner if he receives a salary from the county. No other constitutional officers have caps on their salaries and fees. Where is the equity in all of this? It looks to me like the probate judge was singled out. Our tax commissioner gets paid a salary to collect taxes. Why should we pay extra for him to do the job he was elected to do? The city taxes are extra work that my tax dollars pay for because it is the county workers doing the work. All of these fees come through Douglas County Finance and into the pockets of these elected officials. I think, to be fair, all elected official salaries and fees should be capped at $150,000. What is good for one should be good for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next citizen is Sabine Kelly.
Good morning. Sabina Kelly, P.O. Box 536, Winston, Georgia. And I want to thank all of y'all for our last meeting. And you know I'm about data centers, so I know y'all all tired about hearing about the data centers. However, my concern is, I looked up Google. They've been here since 2003, and I kept trying to figure out how much money we've gotten from taxes to lower our tax cost as a citizen for the discounts Google got. And I understand Trammell Crow will get no discounts, which is awesome. Thank you very much for that. But I'd like to figure out how many subsidies Google is still getting at this point. And I'd like to get a moratorium on any other data centers. Planning and Zoning did mention to us that we're opening a can of worms. And before it gets started, if we could do a moratorium, and our legal people will be able to fill that in. But since we've already got 6 or more other people wanting to come into Winston for a data center, and Amazon and everybody else, unless they pay for new fire stations, which we totally need in District 4. We only have, I think, 1 fire truck down there. And it'd be great to have some fire assistance. If that fire truck is out helping on Highway 5 or Chapel Hill, anybody on 166 is having an issue. And I've noticed there's more houses that have totally burned down to the ground in Douglas County, driving throughout the whole county, and I'm not understanding why that's happening. I know it happens, but I've been here since 2001, and I've never seen as many houses as I've seen right now that have been burned down. So anyways, like I said, I appreciate y'all so much, and if we could do that moratorium, that would be great. And the other thing is, I checked out, and according to Georgia, Agricultural Department is still our #1 business here in Georgia. And I'd really appreciate it if Mr. Humphreys and the rest of us could get together and try to get our farms growing again. And they could be just like the data centers that are going to teach our kids how to do data work and become great data people. We need our kids to know how to work with the farms also. And in Clinton Park, we used to have every year, we'd have farm animals come in and they'd be selling them, and it was a great experience through our Parks and Recreation. If we could have that again, that'd be great, because our kids could learn about all the different, I didn't know there were that many different kinds of chickens out there, so it was really cool. And I see item number 19 is about homestead exemption. I would love to keep homestead exemption in Douglas County. Thank you so much, and I hope y'all have a blessed week.
Thank you.
Thank you. There were no more citizens.
Okay. Just as a reminder, Commissioners, each Commissioner will have 3 minutes to make remarks and 2 minutes per rebuttal. We have a presentation this morning for the Youth Swearing-In Commission.
That's actually for tomorrow.
Is that for tomorrow? Okay. All right. Approval of minutes. Commissioners, please take time to review the minutes for the February 4th, 2025 Commission meeting minutes, the work session minutes of February 3rd, 2025, and also the executive session minutes of February 3rd, 2025. And we'll be having 2 proclamations tomorrow, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One proclaiming the month of March 2025 as Stop the Violence Month in Douglas County. This will be presented by Rubens Paul. And another proclamation for February 21st, 2025 as National Government Communications Day here in Douglas County. Madam Clerk, I'm going to turn it over to you for the rest of the agenda.
Okay. Also on the agenda tomorrow, we will have 2 public hearings. The first one will be to request approval for a pawnbroker shop license for Quick Pawn Gold and Guns at 173 Maxim Road in Austell, Georgia. Allison Duncan will present that tomorrow. Also, we have House Bill 581, the homestead exemption opt-out, and Tiffany Stewart Stanley will present that tomorrow as well. We'll move on to grants. Number 8 is a resolution to amend Connect Douglas's budget to provide the necessary operating funds from the general fund to support 2025 annual budget, write off the outstanding amount due to general fund balance, and approve the submission of Federal Transit Authority 5307 Urbanized Area Formula Operating and Maintenance Grant totaling $4,127,067 over 3 years with local match funded through Connect Douglas's budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Solomon Rana.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Board, and Administration. We're requesting your approval to submit an application to obtain our formula grant funds from FTA. This grant offers roughly $4 million with a local match of $1.9 million over a period of 3 years. As we embark on this multi-year grant, we also wanted to present currently outstanding budgetary considerations for Connect Douglas. Currently, Connect Douglas operates as an enterprise, therefore it requires financial contribution from the county and general fund to maintain its operating expenses. The resolution outlines the financial support that is needed to continue delivering services for the current year, resolve the outstanding balance from last year. This resolution was prepared in coordination with Finance Department, therefore myself, Director Roberts, and CFO are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner Braxton.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
So the 1.9 million for 3 years, is that personnel match, or what is that match from, just so I'm clear?
It will be funded through the budget. For whatever purpose the grant is used for, the match will be funded through the respective line item of our budget.
Okay. And then in regards to the application for the grant itself, I know if we approve that and moving forward, when would that be submitted, and when do we think that we'll hear back on if we receive that grant?
So our staff stands ready to submit the application as soon as the board approves it. The general turnaround time that I've seen is anywhere from 2 to 3 months. And by that time, the grant is authorized. This is reimbursable grant, so we'll have to spend the money and then request reimbursements.
Okay. And we feel pretty confident that once we submit it, if we submit it, that we will get approved, or?
We are, due to the fact that this is a formula grant.
Okay.
Therefore, we're very confident that if approved, we'll get it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, I yield the floor back over to you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? No? I have one. Just for transparency to the public, because we're talking about writing off the outstanding balance. What is that outstanding balance that we're going to write off?
The resolution says the balance is $4.9 million.
So almost $5 million that we're going to write off.
That's right.
And the purpose of why we're having to write this off?
I'll defer to CFO.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question? Good morning,
Good morning.
Chair, Commissioners, Administration. Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. So we're writing off $4.9 million. Why are we having to write off $4.9 million?
Why?
Yes, sir.
Because Connect Douglas, even though it's an enterprise fund, is unable to generate enough revenue of its own. As a consequent, general fund has indirectly been subsidizing it. It showing a fund balance that's really not a reserve fund balance with enough funds or cash to fund its own operations. And that's the reason why we need to write this off. And that's just for this year. The accumulation of that will continue in 2026 unless, we have to come back to the board or during the budget period to consider an alternative source of funding it.
So we're losing $4.9 million a year, and that's going to continue because it cannot sustain itself?
Now, it will probably reduce itself as the $4 million grant comes in and makes up for some of the operations. But then that's assuming the grant will continue to perpetuity as a recurring source of revenue. So if the grant will run out, then the board will need to consider a reoccurring source of revenue. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Is there any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Kenner-Jones.
So I just want to clarify, so it's being presented as the $4.1 million is a loss. Director Rana, are you aware of any bus system that actually generates revenue sufficient to cover the cost of those services?
Entire operations, no, ma'am. Most, if all, transit agencies require some sort of contribution to survive.
And is it also correct that prior to 2021, the Connect Douglas funding came directly out of the general fund? It was a decision made by administration to move this as a line item into an enterprise fund, so it looks like we are paying it back out of the reserve, but it was previously covered under recurring revenue from taxpayer-generated funds, correct?
Commissioner, that predates me, so I would defer to Finance or Director Roberts if you would like.
It predates me too, Commissioner, but I can answer that. Prior to 2021, you said, Connect Douglas was embedded as part of general fund. So it was part of the entire balanced budget of property tax and everything else. When you move it out of general fund, then you either need to plus up general fund property taxes or make sure you have recurring sources to fund it as you move it, and move the recurring source of revenue with it.
So in essence, nothing has changed except for the line item that Connect Douglas is being funded out of, or how it appears to be being funded.
The recurring source of revenue that had it balanced on the general fund was not transferred with it when it was moved.
But that's not because this is some new cost or a new deficit that the bus system is running under.
Indirectly it is, because at the year that it was moved, general fund was a balanced budget without Connect Douglas, revenue matching expense. Connect Douglas was not, in reality, a balanced budget with recurring revenue. It had a fund balance.
But
that
if it was a
wasn't
part
funded.
of the general fund and a budget, then the taxpayers' payments into our tax system and our budget is the recurring revenue that would have covered this public service.
If at the year that it was moved, that balanced budget included additional resources to move with it, but it didn't.
And I'm not aware of any resolution that was passed to say not to carry over or not to add that taxpayer coverage for a service that benefits the entire community. It was just moved into an enterprise fund.
There isn't a resolution, but there was a resolution for a balanced budget. And that resolution for a balanced budget should have included additional resources to also keep Connect Douglas a
But
balanced
that's
source of
no
revenue.
fault of the actual transit system, the bus system. This is not something that should be new or a surprise. It costs money to run a public service, correct?
It's no fault of anybody. It was a decision the board made to vote for a balanced budget, and Connect Douglas recurring revenue was not voted on as to where it will come from.
And so, again, it's a public service that is a part of our budget that was previously being funded through general funds. It's now in an enterprise fund, but the cost, I want to make it clear to the public, this is not a write-off. It wasn't a handout to the bus system. This is the cost that it was going to cost to run this no matter what. Because the way that this reads, it almost makes it seem like they have somehow lost money or that they have become deficient in some capacity and that we didn't have the revenue to cover it, and that's not the case. So I want to make it clear to the public that we are not doing the bus system a favor, that we are not writing off or inappropriately spending. It is just that this is what it costs to run this public service. We're not giving them anything back or writing anything off. Technically, the taxpayers have already paid for this.
Not quite.
We can agree to disagree, but but that's what it is. With that, I yield back.
Okay. Is there any more questions? Yes, County Administrator.
Yeah, I want to make sure the board is fairly clear about what we're trying to do here. End of the day, you know, the enterprise system is not bringing in revenue sufficient to cover it. In the past, it was in the general fund. From an accounting perspective, we're trying to reconcile and pretty much true up some of what Commissioner Kenner-Jones just basically stated. You know, we have to have a balanced budget. We have operations that have to be paid for. Because of the accounting nature of this item, we need to reconcile that with our fund balance. Right now, our fund balance is carrying approximately a $5 million receivable. No matter how we kind of carve it out, we know we're not going to get that money back, and it's not intended to get it back. But we can't recognize that in our bank account anymore as a receivable. So step one of this resolution is to basically acknowledge that it was a part of the general fund. It was expected to be paid out of property taxes. And we're going to settle that issue right now with y'all considering this resolution. So that's going to be, we're going to reduce our fund balance by that corresponding amount, because right now it's listed as, it's embedded as a receivable. The second part of this resolution is to basically acknowledge that Connect Douglas needs a general fund this year subsidy in which to operate. They don't have that right now. It wasn't part of our balanced budget. So we're going to take an additional roughly 3.9, transfer it to to Connect Douglas throughout the course of the year, offset by any revenues or any other savings that we can generate at the enterprise level to basically cover that expense for the year. Going forward in 2026, the board will have to consider embedding a recurring revenue source to match that expense going forward. Forever and a day, you're going to have to match it. Now we're going to apply the grant. The third part of the paper is the grant. We will apply for a grant. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but we will apply for it. Given the circumstances that are out there in the world today, there's certainly no guarantee that we're going to get that grant. But we do know it's going to run about $3.6 to $4 million a year annually to run that system, which we're going to have to work hard to find a recurring revenue source for 26. As long as we maintain and keep that bus system, we're going to have to determine how to fund it. And that's pretty much what this resolution, does that cover what y'all? Yeah, that's pretty much what this resolution is intended to do, is to true up and acknowledge that we have a service that we're providing that needs to be paid for.
Is there any more comments or questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Next item, please.
I'm sorry, yes. Number 9, approval for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to accept grant 15PBJA-24-RR-05676 SCAP in the amount of $18,517 with no county match from the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance for the 2024 BJA Fiscal Year 24 State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. Establish the budget and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Lieutenant Colonel Pounds.
Good morning. SCAP is the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. It provides federal payments to states and localities that incur correctional costs for incarcerating undocumented criminal aliens with at least one felony or 2 misdemeanor convictions for violations of state or local law, and incarcerated for at least 4 consecutive days during the reporting period. This federal grant program was initiated in the 1990s, and we have been awarded this grant for many years. 2025's award is $18,517. The budget and project end date is December 31st of this year. Historically, we use these funds for training, but there's a wide range of approved categories, such as salaries for corrections officers, overtime, corrections, workforce recruitment and retention, construction of corrections facilities, training, education for offenders, training for corrections officers related to offender population management, consultants involved with offender population, medical and mental health services, vehicle rental purchase for transport of offenders, pre-release reentry programs, technology involving the offender management and interagency information sharing, disaster preparedness, and continuity of operations for correctional facilities.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I think just have one.
Yeah. Commissioner Kenner Jones.
You mentioned mental health. Does that have to be used on the incarcerated individuals, or is that funding that might be available to help support mental health initiatives for the trauma that our officers experience?
No, for the offenders.
For the offenders only?
Yes.
I yield back.
Okay. Commissioner Raxon.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. So looking at the contract and looking at the approved services, I see the list that you provided. However, on pages 4 and 5, next to what the funds will be used for is no. So I was just curious as specifically what are the plans for this year that, or which one of the line items are you specifically looking? Because again, just looking at the contract, no is next to each one of those line items.
So I know this year we sent some officers to conferences to do some things, but not sure exactly what we're going to use these funds for at the moment, you know, but I know we do use it for training. We send it people from the jail to the conferences to learn more about how to deal with inmates and everything like that. But
Okay.
I can get back with you. I talked with Chief Connor.
Okay, that thing, maybe our grants administrator can give us some insights here. And just correct me
so-
if I'm looking at this incorrect here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The document that is in your packet is the draft. This is a online acceptance of the paperwork. So once we go in and select the items and digitally sign it, then it will read yes. Generally, we check them all, and then the sheriff's department will develop a budget based on that.
Okay, so this is a draft, is just no for right now, but you're going to check each one of the line items before you submit. Is that where I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, I yield the floor back. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, if you'll begin with our business items.
I'm sorry. Number 10, approval of a service contract with Mobile Communications America in the amount of $14,862 to be funded through the 2025 EMA budget for service and maintenance on the 16 outdoor warning sirens owned by Douglas County, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. James Queen.
Good morning. This is for the service contract for our outdoor warning sirens that are within the county's jurisdiction. The city maintains their 16 of the 32 that are in Douglas County as a whole. This is just for our the service contract so that they can be maintained, have parts replaced as needed, and just their general maintenance.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, please.
Yes, number 11, approval of a contract with Douglas County Board of Elections, polling precinct number 734, to use the facility, a room located at 5903 Stewart Parkway, Douglasville, Georgia 30135, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, the Board of Commissioners, County Administration. This is an agreement to relocate Precinct 734. Precinct 734 had 2 locations on last year, which was a presidential election year, because the first location became unsoluble as a location. So after runoff elections prior to the November election, we had to relocate that facility. The facility that was located was Elizabeth Baptist Church. We had to get approval from the state to relocate to Elizabeth because it is slightly outside the district. It was always our game plan to find a location within that precinct's boundary lines, which is a 2-mile radius. Within a 2-mile radius of every home address, we have located a location within that distance. This is also the Douglas County Community Service Board. So this move is actually a cost-saving measure for the department as well.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Kinder-Jones.
So with the Community Services Board, is there going to be any disruption to their hours of operations in terms of being able to still service their patients while we have voting going on at those locations?
This is intended to be just a election day precinct. We have had conversations with the director for Community Service Board. The room in which we are actually going to be conducting has an external entrance, so it would not interfere with any of the standard services of the board.
Thank you. I yield back.
Okay. Commissioner Raxton.
All right, thank you. So just to confirm, this is replacing Elizabeth Baptist Church, which was a temporary location last year?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the roundabout cost savings by moving to this location that you mentioned?
Last year's election cycle, we did not use Elizabeth for all of last year, but had we used it for all of elections last year, it would have been a $7,000 cost for that location.
Okay, so we're thinking about somewhere around there for this year, for 2025 election,
Yes.
about $7,000 cost savings?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And going forward
And going-
as well, because the county already has a financial obligation to Community Service Board, so.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I yield the floor back.
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, number 12, approval to enter into a professional janitorial cleaning services agreement with Aries Cleaning in the amount of $800 monthly, funded by the fire department budget for bi-weekly cleaning services of the fire department headquarters building, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Chief Allen.
Good morning, Board. Simply put, we're just asking for approval for this cleaning agreement with this company to do our headquarters.
Commissioners, is there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Braxton.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chief Allen.
Good morning.
So maybe this question is for our CFO. It looks like the budget line item is for $8,000 for this line item. Is that correct for 2025?
For this,
For the line item that I saw for cleaning.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. I thought that was in our documents, that the line item was 8,000. I was just going to ask as far as the term and the length of the agreement, is it for 10 months or 12 months based on the line item that was shared for that approval?
Well, I'm going to accept your word until I verify.
Okay.
But even if the line item was just 8,000, because you all adopt the budget at a roll-up level, they have plenty of money
Okay.
to just do an internal adjustment should it come over or under,
Okay.
and especially at this time of the year.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, I was just wondering, just from the length of time, if it was for 8,000, that would be covering 10 months if we were doing $800 a month. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
All right, well, just get back to us.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, I yield the floor back.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Next item, please.
Number 13, approval of a change order from CMES, Inc. in connection with the project number 0004428 Lee Road Phase 2 widening project to extend the contract duration until August 31st, 2025, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Solomon Rana.
Greetings again. Lee Road Phase 2 is our active construction project between I-20 and Fairburn. The project is approximately 50% complete. The anticipated completion of the project is towards end of this year. We're recommending this intermediate time extension approval up until August 31st, just so we can ensure strong project controls and oversight on the progress of the contractor, but hope to achieve major milestones up until then and may come back for another rather shorter extension at that point. Therefore, we're recommending your approval, and this comes to you before you without any budget impacts at this point. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Yeah. The next item, please.
Okay. We have number 14, approval of task order number 2 with Atkins Realis in the amount of $558,558.94 in connection with project number 4428 Lee Road Phase 2 widening project for construction engineering and inspection services to be funded by the SPLOST 2016 fund, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Solomon Rana.
Atkins serves as our CEI for the subject project, and with the extended project delivery, additional services will be required with more manpower and more hours spent by the consultant firm. Therefore, we're recommending this extension and also an increase in their budget by approximately $558,000. This will be a cost plus fixed fee contract. In case there are any potential savings, our staff will continue monitoring the project and the consultant's hours. And in the case of any savings, the money will come back to the project budget. Therefore, we're recommending this contract for your approval. Thank you.
Commissioners, is there any questions? Okay.
Okay.
Next
Number
item, please.
15, approval of a corrective deductive change order from Summit Construction and Development LLC in the amount of $571,333.92 in connection with the Spine Road project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Solomon Rana.
Spine Road is a project that we recently completed and is open for public as we speak. In the second board meeting of January, we came before you to recommend approval on a deductive change order. The language or the amount listed on the agenda was incorrect, so therefore we're coming back to request a correction of the amount. The right amount for deductive change order number 6 is $571,333.92. Recommending your approval. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Okay.
Okay. Number 16,
Thank you.
a resolution approving a moratorium on certain applications for small box discount retail stores for 90 days for a review of the comprehensive plan and unified development code, as well as related documents and studies pending final legal review. Allison Duncan.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Board. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you again this morning. Items 16 and 17 are kind of the same measure here. The first one is a moratorium looking for you to give us 90 days to review our code and to study certain provisions as related to small box discount retail stores. These are more generally known as dollar stores or discount stores. So we would come back to you as we did previously with our moratorium and return several findings and recommendations to you prior to the end of the 90 days to determine if you feel that our codes and plans align with the direction that this board would like to take for the county. So we are putting this in front of you to ascertain if you are inclined to grant a moratorium for this use on this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Kenner Jones.
I just would like to say thank you for getting this back to us as quickly as you did. I really do appreciate that. And I just want to make sure that the residents know we hear them loud and clear. We are taking their concerns about Family Dollars, Dollar Generals, discount stores like that seriously, trying to identify a need, what areas make the most sense for them to be in, if any at all. And so having this moratorium and this study done will help us do that. So I appreciate you getting that done as quickly as you did.
Sure, thanks.
Anyone else?
I yield back, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's good. All right, the next agenda item, please.
Okay, this is a resolution approving a moratorium on certain applications for computer infrastructure providers, data processing, web hosting, and related services, along with accessory structures and uses for 90 days for a review of the comprehensive plan and unified development code, as well as related documents and studies pending final legal review. Allison Duncan.
All right, thank you again. More succinctly put, this is a request for a 90-day moratorium on data centers. And so very similar to, as I said, with the previous item, we are looking to understand if it is the board's will to move in the direction at this time to give us those 90 days to return findings and recommendations about our current codes and regulations in regard to this use. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Rexon.
Yes, and again, just the same similar comment as before. Greatly appreciate you putting this together so quickly. And as we heard even today from our residents, just the mention and what is expanding and growth were related to data centers here in Douglas County. It's given us opportunity to take a pause, to review it, and to get more information and to come back with additional recommendations. So again, appreciate you putting this together, and I yield the floor back.
Okay. All right. No other questions? Okay, the next agenda item, please. Thank you.
Okay. Number 18 is approval to enter into a time and material agreement with Tyler Technologies in the amount of $20,650 to be paid in 2 payments to complete the required enterprise assessment and tax system updates to accommodate the House Bill 581 changes for the Appraisal and Tax Commissioner's Office, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Steve Balfour.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning,
Good morning.
Administrator. Good morning, all. This is an approval request for the required work that will be done to accommodate House Bill 581 on our tax commerce system. So we're asking the approval to go ahead with getting this done.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Rexon.
Yeah, I guess more just a comment here, and it looks like that any county or all counties are impacted by this change, by these 2 House bills. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the cost, is it based on the 20,000? Is it based on population, or what goes into the cost?
It's based on the time and material that will be required to
Okay.
cover the updates in our
Okay.
system at Douglas.
Okay, just specifically for Douglas, okay. 'Cause I'm
That
just
is
wondering if the other counties are paying about the same as well.
I'm sure it would be prorated based on, Fulton, for example, has
Mhm.
360,000 parcels. We have 58,000
Mhm.
parcels. So it's going to be a much bigger cost.
Okay, so it is based on parcel?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. I yield the floor back.
Commissioner Kenneth Jones.
What funding source are you asking for these funds out of? Are they already in your budget, or?
There is fund in the budget which will be repurposed, and we will speak with finance after to see.
And just so the public knows, the reason that we have to cover these funds is because it's an unfunded state mandate that is requiring us to comply with these provisions.
Absolutely.
I yield back.
Okay. Thank you for that. Saved me a question. Okay, the next line item, please, Madam.
Okay, number 19, resolution by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners to opt out of the homestead exemption pursuant to OCGA, Section 48-5-44-2, pending final legal review.
Good morning, Vice
Good
Chair,
morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
This will just be the resolution that the board will have to vote on tomorrow after the final public hearing. As we know, for HB 581, we have to have 3 public hearings before any action can be taken. So the clerk and I, we decided to just separate it so we can have the public hearing and then have a separate voting item tomorrow.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioners? Okay, all right, thank you. The next
Okay.
item.
Number 20, approval of a letter of support for the Cultural Arts Council Douglasville, Douglas County's request to develop a new arts and culture campus in our community, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Thank you. Back in December, when we passed our legislative agenda, one of the funding items that we are supporting, the Board of Commissioners voted to support in our legislative agenda, is the Cultural Arts Campus funding. And what the Cultural Arts Council is asking for is a letter from the Board of Commissioners just showing their support for the project. This is not obligating us to any financial fees or anything associated with the request. It's just saying that when we go to the state legislative agenda, we have to make sure that we show that this is something we want in our community. And so she's asking for the letter to be signed by the chairman supporting this initiative.
Okay, is there any questions, Commissioners? Okay, all right, thank you. The next line item, please.
Number 21, authorization for the chairman to execute an annual agreement with Douglas County Travel and Tourism, Inc., pending final legal review. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Thank you. This agreement is between Douglas County and the Douglas County Travel and Tourism, Inc. for destination marketing services. This is the agreement. We just passed one a couple of months ago for 2024 to ratify what we had in place. This is the agreement for 2025. This will allow DCTT to continue to act as our destination marketing organization through the end of the year. And the terms state that they have to provide us with financial information with how they're spending the funds, as well as making sure that we get a copy of their audit each year. And they have to submit an approved budget or business plan to county administration and the county finance department no later than April 1st, so we can make sure that those funds are going to be spent in accordance with the wishes of the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? I have one.
Yes.
Do we have any type of talks with them where we sit down and, go over exactly so they can show us the initiative or their marketing plan where they would like to market for Douglas County?
So right now, the way it's listed, the chairman and I believe the county administrator are ex officio members of that board. I met with them a couple of months ago just to kind of go over some information, but that is something that we can arrange if the board would like to meet with the members of the board and just kind of go over what their plans are. That is definitely something that we can arrange for the board.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Madam
Okay.
Clerk?
I have a question, Vice Chair.
Okay, Madam Chair?
Instead of a question, just a comment for the DCTT. What I've done in the past is have this actual board come in and present to the Board of Commissioners regarding progress and projects and things that are coming forth, dealing with their initiatives that they roll out to the citizens on behalf of our citizens for marketing and advertising. So that will continue. If that so pleases the board, we can make sure that that continues to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Next line item, please, Madam Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Number 22, appointment of members to the Douglas County Opioid Abatement Advisory Council. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Thank you. So last year, we did establish the Douglas County Opioid Advisory Council, and at this point, we need to appoint some members to that advisory council. The resolution provides that there are certain organizations in the community that get to have recommendations for their person on the board. And so we have a list of those. The first one is a designee of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office as appointed by the sheriff. The sheriff is recommending Sergeant Ashley Hill. The second, a member of the executive team of the Douglas County Community Service Board as appointed by the Community Service Board and approved by the Board of Commissioners. They are recommending Ray Lightford. The third, a member of the Douglas County Board of Health as appointed by the Douglas County Board of Health and approved by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Their recommendation is Dr. Charles Creighton. The next one is a member that is actually picked by the Board of Commissioners. It is a survivor of the disease of addiction or family member who has lost a loved one to the disease, and that is appointed by the board for a term not to exceed 2 years. We had 3 citizens who showed interest in that position, and the board, you will have to pick your pick for that. The next one, a substance use disorder treatment provider within Douglas County, licensed by the Georgia Department of Community Health as appointed by the Board of Commissioners. And we had Ms. Tara Nichols of the Nichols Center who has volunteered as a recommendation for that position. A member of the executive team of the Douglas County Department of Family and Children's Services as appointed by the county director or the DFACS board, and their recommendation is Dee Artis, and that has to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. And the last recommendation comes from the Douglas County Superior Court as appointed by the chief judge, and that recommendation was Karen Alexander. So those are your recommendations for members of the board, and the board will have to make a vote on the final members tomorrow.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Okay.
Approval of a master lease agreement with the City of Douglasville for rental of event space at the Douglasville Conference Center through December 31st, 2025, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Thank you. This is just our yearly master agreement with the City of Douglasville for the use of the conference center. We have a lot of events at the conference center, and so we were doing these every meeting, so we decided to just do one master agreement that covers every event that we'll use, so we won't have to come before you so much for that.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? No?
This is Chairman Jones. I have a comment for our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Stewart. I just have a question for you. But you said this is an agreement throughout the, I guess, through December 31st, 2025, I'm assuming. But remember, the conference center will go under, will be renovated starting in June, so I'm not sure how long that renovation will take. So
yes,
do we want to consider this agreement, or, I mean, is it necessary to do this? That's my question to you.
Yes, ma'am. I would think that I'm recommending that we move forward because this agreement is only when we need to use it. So if we only use it from now through June, I think they're going to start the renovations in June. It's just per event. So let's just say we decide to have a youth commission event on April 15th. This master agreement is in place so that we can use it without coming back before you. But we may not use them at all for the rest of the year. We have no obligation to the City of Douglasville. It's just for when we get ready to use it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I yield back the floor to you, Vice Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, next.
Number 24, approval of a resolution in support of Public Facilities Authority, pending final legal review. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Thank you. Once again, back in our legislative agenda that we passed last year, one of our state legislative priorities that we have listed as a Public Facilities Authority. And what a Public Facilities Authority would do, it would create another method of financing capital projects for Douglas County. This Public Facilities Authority would consist of members that would be appointed by the Board of Commissioners, or it could be the Board of Commissioners, in consideration for projects that we need to do in the county that need financing. we're asking the board to simply today just authorize a resolution so that members of our state delegation can move forward with putting together some legislation to be introduced into the General Assembly for this to come to fruition. And so I'll yield for any questions.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Kenner-Jones.
What is, I guess, the pressing need now? Is there an identified list of projects that we're looking to move forward? When is that list of projects going to be presented to the Board of Commissioners?
So we do not have a pressing list. It's just in anticipation for some things that we know that we have coming up. And of course, this will all be at the discretion of the board. For example, we know that we have outgrown this courthouse and we will need additional space. So that's one thing that you may consider to use the Public Facilities Authority for. But we don't have a list at this time that we're bringing for you today. We're just bringing it forward as another tool that you can use in the future. You can create the Facilities Authority and never use it, or you can use it for certain things, but because it was listed as part of the legislative agenda, our chairman of the legislative delegation, Kimberly Alexander, has asked for a resolution in order to be able to move forward if this is something the board wants to pursue.
And when you say at the discretion of the board, you mean the Public Facilities Authority Board?
Yes, so the Public Facilities Authority will make will make recommendations. You all will have to sign off on it as a Board of Commissioners.
And so explain what the process of using a Public Facilities Authority would look like.
Sure, let me find it for you. Okay, so once the Public Facilities Authority is created, the Board of Commissioners, like I said, would appoint members that could be members of the community or themselves. Once the members are appointed, hold on one second, they, of course, a chairman and a vice chairman would have to be appointed for that. And then the projects would, the Facilities Authority will look at projects and then consider what needs to be financed. All of this will be subject to the open records law. So nothing can be done in secret. This would have to be brought before you, and then there would have to be a public hearing before anyone can move forward with issuing any bonds or anything like that. This would also have to be done in consultation with our financial advisor. So there's a process for anything that we want to do. So let's just say we want to build a building. That would have to go through the Facilities Authority. We'd have to be in consultation with our financial advisor, as well as having public hearings for the public to be able to come in and voice their support or if they don't support it.
And any of those projects that are financed through this process would likely result in an increase to the millage rate?
So this is not going to be a tax on the citizens. This money will come from the general fund, and Dr. Corbett can correct me.
Can I get you to repeat that question one more time, please?
If we were to choose, let's say this resolution passes and we have a Public Facilities Authority, we identify projects that we want to have financed or bonds taken out on. Those bonds aren't free; they have to be paid back. So my question is, would that result in an increase to the millage rate?
You are correct. Bonds are not free. But we would have to identify a recurring revenue source, which would be property taxes or off basically out of our general fund. So property taxes would likely be the source of revenue to pay for any capital projects going forward.
And so those would be capital projects that haven't been anticipated in any of our current budgets, which would then likely increase the funding that would be necessary to pay those bonds back.
You are correct, or we have to find a offsetting cost, one to balance it. Yes, ma'am.
And I would presume that then whoever these bonds are owed to, they always would get paid back first before we would then divvy out the remainder of our budget for our currently existing needs.
That's correct.
I yield back.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay.
And I do want to say, I just want to make sure that people know that this PFA cannot levy any sort of tax. It would have to come from the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. All right. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Number 20.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If we could just have that agenda item 24 on the business items for tomorrow, not on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay, number 25 is we're going to have a board appointment for the Planning and Zoning Board for a vacant position. We received 2 applications from Mr. James Dobbs and Miss Melissa Polk. So we will need to make that appointment tomorrow.
Okay.
And Vice Chair, I have one other item. It was missed at the beginning. We had a request on Friday afternoon to add it to the agenda. So I wanted to just ask if you wanted to do that. It's for authorization to appeal a hearing officer decision, changing an assessment by less than 20%. Steve Balfour's here to present, but I'm going to defer to legal to see how we can do that since we've already approved the agenda.
And so, good morning. Since you've already approved the agenda, the process to consider this item would be to move to suspend the rules. This would not be one of the rules that's prohibited from suspension. You can suspend the rules to amend the agenda, and then you would move to amend the agenda to add that item. It would take the passage of both motions to add the item.
Vice Chair, I would make a motion to suspend the rules at this time.
I second the motion.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Is there any comments, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please by raising your right hand. All opposed, the same. Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would like to make a motion to allow the agenda to be amended for this item at this time.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please agree by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Okay. So now I'll let Steve Balfour introduce the item.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Good morning. This is asking the Commissioners and the governing authority for permission to do an appeal on a hearing officer's decision that is less than 20%. Typically, the Board of Assessors can go ahead and appeal all decisions that are above 20%. But this one is at 19.7%, and it's below the 20% threshold, and we're asking for permission to go ahead and further this appeal to the Superior Court.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? No? Okay. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Last on the agenda is just be prepared to approve expenses of Commissioner Martin Raxton, just reimbursable mileage expenses in the amount of $397.58.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any commissioner comments? No? All right, County Attorney, do we have a need to go into executive session?
We do, Vice Chair Alcaraz, we do have items for real estate, litigation, personnel, cybersecurity. So if there's a motion on the basis of those 4 grounds, the commission would be authorized to proceed to executive session.
Commissioners, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Second.
Same. All in favor by raising your right hand? All opposed, the same. Okay. We will now adjourn until executive session, and we will return shortly. We'll reconvene after executive session is over.